board member. So what you came here tonight for, Tanis, Thorne, and Seck, and they're going to be talking about their new book, as you know, titled History of Lake Olympia in Glenbrook Park. So Tanis has been a kind of frequent presenter before. I think this is maybe Vince's, no, we had Vince here about 10 years ago talking about the park. You've been here previously, right?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. I did happen to notice you have one of your photo books over there by the brown images. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, for sale? Excellent document. You want to look at some of the oldest images made in California by an artist of the Nissan Indians, northern Maidu, based in this area. Southern Maidu. Very impressive book if that's of interest to you. I find it very fascinating myself. Who's going to start? You going to draw straws? Yes, you're on.
Ladies first. Oh, ladies first.
Okay.
Notice how I throw that word around?
If you want. There we go.
Okay. Am I on?
Yes.
Hello? Is this loud enough? No. Is this loud enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does it need to be louder? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, all right, we begin. Welcome and thank you all for coming out on this dark and stormy night. You are the audience for whom this book was written. Thank you, Dan and Dom and everyone who has helped with this book. A couple of announcements. Dom reminded me that a field trip often accompanied the speaker night, so we will have a field trip to Lake Olympia when it's dry enough to do so. And so there is a sign-up sheet. No date has been established, but there's a sign-up sheet if you want to go on that Lake Olympia field trip. We have the books for sale in the back, and there's some information about the book here. We also have some Christmas-wrapped books, softbacks, if you want to get a gift for one of your loved ones. If you can't buy the book tonight, or you know someone who might want to buy it, it's available at an alphabet of places in this community, and we can help you out to buy a book. It's also available at the Nevada County Historical Society. All right. So Vince has often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And from the outset, we intended to make this a picture book. This is one of those pictures, one of my favorite. It dates from the 1920s, and in the background you can see the concession building. And some young fairy-like girls sitting on the bedrock mortar, which was a iconic feature of Lake Olympia. First, I will do a very brief introduction, then Vince will take the floor, and then there will be a 15-minute or so question and answer period, followed by the book signing and the cookies, of course. So hopefully we can wrap up in an hour and 15 minutes, but I'm eager to hear any and all of your stories about Lake Olympia. Mr. Mike Carr here I just spoke to, he said that he was at the bowling alley at Lake Olympia. Roller rink at Lake Olympia the day before it burned down. So this is still alive in our memories. So this picture, I think, conveys the romance of Lake Olympia on a moonlit night. All right, the overview. Now this book is about recreation in the Glenbrook Basin. Some of you may know it as the Brunswick Basin, but it's really the Glenbrook Basin, and I'll explain that in a minute. So there's 2 recreational parks, and they took up basically most of the flat land in the Glenbrook Basin, and they were vibrant institutions for over 100 years. And this is, the quote at the bottom kind of sums up this place. You can't believe how fun and romantic it was. The things to point out here is that it was, there was an overlap between Glenbrook Park and Lake Olympia. They were rivals for a period of time in around the year 1900. Secondly, I want to point out that these were institutions like the narrow gauge or the traction company, the electric trolley. They were vital places in Nevada County's history. This is a picture, railroad people. Have you ever seen this image before? It comes from, we got it from Richard Biggs, who was the nephew of Harold Biggs, who always identified his postcards by writing in capital letters at the bottom. Most of what we know about Lake Olympia comes from Harold Biggs' postcards. And what I want to tell you about just briefly is the glorious parts of Glenbrook Park and Lake Olympia, which is also called Olympia Park. And what brought on the glory days of Glenbrook Park, which was a racetrack, which was 1 mile in length and 40 feet wide, was the coming of the narrow gauge to the Glenbrook Basin. Here we see the Gold Flat, the train going over the Gold Flat trestle on its way to Glenbrook. So shortly after that, and this is the finest picture we have of the racetrack. It was taken very shortly after the track was improved for the district fair of 1885. We see in the corner here the judges stand. And it's brand new, and here is the 2-tiered grandstand, and I think these are stables right here. The leading men of Nevada City didn't want to go down to Watt Park for the annual county fair, so they managed to create a new agricultural district, the 17th Agricultural District, and made that the district fairgrounds, and that encompassed both Nevada and Placer County. And so there would be 5 days of racing, as well as stock exhibits and other things. And so these were the glory days at Glenbrook Park, when there were huge, huge purses, $10,000 or more, and people brought their horses on the railroad from all over the state. And Glenbrook Park's races were in the sports sections of papers all over the state. Now, if geography is destiny, Glenbrook Basin was destined to be a transportation hub and a place for social gatherings. Well before 1849, it was a gathering place for the Nisenan in the summer months, but after 1849, a toll road connected Grass Valley and Nevada City that later became Nevada City Highway and is Main Street today. It's still there. Then in 1876, the narrow gauge railroad was established in the basin. And then in 1901, the electric trolley, also called the traction company, went between Nevada City and Grass Valley. And of course, today, we have the freeway going right through Glenbrook Basin. So where was this wonderful racetrack and Lake Olympia? This is one of the clearest images, and what it is it shows the annexation of Lake Olympia Park, which was 14.8 acres. It had camping and picnicking, in addition to swimming in the lake and boating and so forth. But it wasn't annexed to the city of Grass Valley until about 2005. And so what you can see here, you know where the old Margarita's restaurant was? And the gas station on this corner, and then there is a tire store. Well, after annexation, when there was water and sewage facilities, then that part was developed. And it's kind of like two tiers of strip malls, or you know how odd that is, so there's one behind the other. This area right here is currently being developed by a hotel conglomerate. And some of you have probably seen the building going on there. All right, Vince doesn't like this map because Lake Olympia slops over onto Plaza Drive, and it really shouldn't. But this is Plaza Drive, this is Sutton Way, this is the cinema. So if you're in the cinema and you look across the street, you would have been looking at Lake Olympia, and this is the PG&E plant. All right, and this is the racetrack, right adjacent to it. Because in the 19th century, people would go across from the racetrack and have picnics in Ishmert's Grove, because this was a beautiful area for picnicking, and it had a creek going through it. All right, so some facts about the Glenbrook Basin. It was as a wetlands, although that is so hard to imagine today. It was very well watered, it was flat, it had a combination of grassland, marsh, and meadow, which made it an ideal place for the Nisenan, a veritable food basket of everything from elk to grasshoppers. And so there was a lot of, and there's some artifacts, some of which we will see tonight, showing the Nisenan occupation of that area. It was also close to the dividing line between two watersheds, Wolf Creek and the Deer Creek watershed, so it was a very important transportation route along the ridge there. Now, but it was cold and wet and undesirable in the winter months. And you can imagine that on a night like tonight. And after 1849, it continued to be a desirable place, highly desirable in the summertime, but not in the winter. So it only had a couple permanent settlers, the Ishmerts being one of them, and the Suttons the other. And that left a lot of space free for recreation. All right. Now, before I go a bit further, I want to emphasize what I call the miracle of Lake Olympia. It was an artificial lake created 50 years after the gold rush. And we all know what happened to the creeks and rivers and ravines in Nevada County and during the gold rush. Well, this was a beautiful spring-fed lake. This is the headwaters of Wolf Creek. This is Banner Mountain right here. All the water coming rushing down on a night like this, and then from Spring Hill. And so we have the origins of Glenbrook Creek here on the Banner Ridge. Also some springs here on this side and more on this side, and they all joined to form Glenbrook Creek, and they went right through the racetrack. This right here, in case you're wondering, is the freeway. This is a LiDAR image, and the LiDAR image could not get rid of this modern development. So this image is meant to show what it looked like before anybody got there, but the freeway's running through it. All right, so the creek joins here, goes through this, and this was a very marshy area. And then this was the ideal place for the lake in a sink just south of the racetrack, because there was a kind of pinching here and it narrowed here, and so this was the best place for the dam. It was, and every year, and Vince, we talk about this in the book, but every year the lake was replenished with fresh spring water, and every fall it was drained. So, it was very, very wonderful water. Here again, we can see the rivers or creeks, and as Vince has emphasized, Glenbrook ran year-round. And so here are the streams coming in from the right and the left, and it shows the transportation system. We made this with Dom Linder's help. This is the railroad. This is Glenbrook Station. This is the electric trolley line, and here is the trolley stop. Vince will be talking more about this image a little bit later. And of course, Glenbrook Creek ran into Wolf Creek ultimately. This is the train stop. The trolley stop. All right, now, the glory days of Lake Olympia. What made Lake Olympia such a wonderful place, and it ultimately won out in its competition against Glenbrook Park because it had this lake, this wonderful lake. And it had something that was really pretty unique in Northern California, some 40-foot high dive and a large slide, a trapeze, and this was really unique at this time. And there weren't other places that you could find this kind of entertainment. Here is the Indian Rock that we saw before, and the picnicking grounds and the camping area, the bathhouses, the concession stand. But what makes this amazing is that Lake Olympia had an island in the middle of the lake, and on that island was a dance floor that was 50 by 100 feet, and 200 people would go to that and dance, and there were dances 2-3 times a week for decades. And it reached its peak. It reached its peak in the 1930s for a combination of reasons. oh, I forgot to mention, it was the only place in Nevada County that could house or could have room for a 12 to 16 piece orchestra that were required in the jazz age and the swing era. So this was the place to go. And in the 1930s, some of the best bands in the country came to Lake Olympia. Lake Olympia was strictly a summertime place until the 1930s, when the pavilion on the island was enclosed, and then you could have music and dancing all year round. Probably the most famous group to come was Lionel Hampton, and he came twice to Lake Olympia in 1935. So I'm going to turn this over to Vince, but I just wanted to say how much Lake Olympia lived in our memories. For it's been 75 years since it closed its doors, but it is so fondly remembered still. And it's, of course, the obvious reason was that there was so much fun there and people had their, youthful memories. But it's more than that. I mean, it was a place of reward and respite from labor, and it was also a community, a gathering place. And it wasn't just Nevada County people that went there, but people came to Glenbrook Park and later to Lake Olympia from all over the region. This was the center of fun. Now, as many of you may know, I met Vince in 2006. Maria Brower noted in her book review that we come from very different backgrounds, but I have come to have enormous respect for Vince Seck. His family owned the Lake Olympia from 1950 to 1958. He has kept this memory of Lake Olympia alive, doing many slideshows over the year. So it's only in the last couple of years that we got busy and did this, but I have to hand it to Vince Seck because this book would not be possible without him. All right, Vince.
I'm going to try a different mic here, and hopefully it works.
Yes, it does.
Okay, it's on. 1, 2, 3. Did it go off? It went off.
Oh, sorry.
She never lets me talk. I'm really surprised that I'm up here. That she turns me off. No, Tanis has really done a great job. Like you say, we met years ago, and she said, we've got to make a book about this. My program was a lot longer at that time. In fact, I remember these historical guys going like this, hey, and I just wasn't finished yet, so I kept talking. But we're going to do it really quick tonight. I want to give just a little bit of a background. My family lived in Berkeley, and Dad wanted to make a change and get involved in either a hotel or some sort of a resort. So my brother was going to University of California, and he was in a fraternity, and he met a couple of guys from Grass Valley, Pete and Pat Ingram. I don't know if any of you know them. Pete ended up as the editor of the Union, and his father preceded him as the editor of the Union. So anyway, Dad came up here and he And he purchased a lake. He looked around at several properties. He almost bought the Bret Hart, but then he decided, oh no, we'll get a resort. And so then he came back home to Berkeley and he said, okay, we're moving. Oh, okay. I had just graduated from high school. I was 19 at the time. I was older than most of the guys because I had stopped and did a little stint in the Merchant Marine shipper Standard Oil. And then came back, a lady kind of coerced me into coming back, and so I did that. So anyway, came up and I drove into the property and looked around, and here's rows and rows of picnic tables. I thought, holy cow, what are we going to do with all of those? I didn't realize the history of this at all. I mean, this had been there for 50 years already, and so many things going on. And we had a lot to do to get it in shape because the roller rink had collapsed at one end because of heavy snows and then raining on the snow. But all that's explained in the book. The rink, this man here dropped a cigarette.
Right.
Yeah. And it kind of smolders and then the whole ring burned down the next day. You never got over that. Anyway, that was in 1958 and the ring burned down and I joined the Grass Valley Police Department at that time. And I was busy on a suicide, and a rookie, and I couldn't leave when they said, hey, your place is burning down. So I finally got out there about 5 o'clock at night, and by that time, there was nothing on the island but a big pile of ashes and a whole bunch of big coil springs that the floor had been mounted on. But what happened then is, with the Grass Valley Police Department, we only had one police car and very few men. And so when you came to work, let's say you're going to work the swing shift and you start at 4 o'clock, well, you walk the beat. You walk from the police station, you walk around town, and you just talk to people. Well, people knew that I was connected with Lake Olympia, and it was just bombarded daily, it seemed like, they want to know about Lake Olympia, and they mostly, I think they want to tell me, like this man that I'm not saying you burned it down. No. But he used to go out there, and these people always went out there, oh yeah, I skated there, I swam, and my mama and daddy met there. That was really the big thing. There was a lot of romance in that place. And so anyway, I had, in 50 and 51, we had a lot of maintenance to do, and we were very busy trying to get the place opened up. And then I got drafted during the Korean, and so I was gone for 2 years, 52 to 54. And so my dad and my little brother had to do a lot. Anyway, what I was saying though, when I got on the police department, I had so many people to talk to, and that kept in my mind that, gee, maybe I better put something together, And then I was asked to come into a couple of rest homes and tell them about it. So I got a binder and got a bunch of big pictures, and I would go and I would tell about it. And I think I talked to almost every organization in town over the years. But then I got into a slideshow, and then I got more photos, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it got too big, but when all this came about, I had to really slim it down. That's my dad. We have very few pictures inside the rink, but that is one I have to do. I'm getting in people's way here. And I need the, we're gonna see how this works if I get in the middle here. See if the sound gets bad. All right, in this picture, right there, this was part of the property of the whole racetrack organization. And clear back to here, because this is also part of, this was a Glenbrook house. It was a toll station at one time, and then they dressed it up and built a very modern, really nice hotel-like with a huge, huge dining room, because there were people coming from all over the state here for the races, and this gave them a very good place to do it, to live it. And actually, they had a second story on this with a great big porch, and they could sit up there with binoculars and watch this. You know, a lot of the ladies, they weren't, okay, she says I'm talking too much. I do that all the time. I don't talk. I can't say my name in 30 minutes. So anyway, I'm going to whiz through this, okay? This is the grandstands and the judge's tower over on this side. Okay, let me switch here. This isn't working. Am I too far away? Okay, nothing personal. Sometimes I don't bathe either, you know. Okay. This is, if you back up into the Glenwood area, this is what you would see back in 1901. That is the powerhouse and car barn for the traction company. The traction company had 4 really beautiful, brand new traction rail cars. Right there, see that there? Mm-hmm. That is the judge's tower. Oh, okay. So you know the racetrack is over on that side and goes way down. Now this is the East Main Street looking down towards Glenbrook. The trolley ran on the north side of East Main Street. When it get to where the B&C is now, it turned in and would go on around and ride on up to Town Talk and go over to Nevada City and park in front of the bank there on Broad Street. They had to diversify in when things were kind of going bad. They couldn't keep up on the maintenance of this racetrack. They didn't use the racetrack very often. You know, and they had to get in there and build everything, smooth out the track and paint and get it going again. So they started diversifying to get people to come out. And they actually put in a dance floor. And this is baseball. Baseball is in. When the racing went out, baseball really came in. Every mine had their own team, and businesses had their own team, and it was just everybody go to Glenbrook and play baseball, and with the huge grove, Ishmael's Grove. It was part of the Olympia Park, but before that it was Ishmael's Grove, and it was a grove of trees that were really big. Okay, this is an era where they built a little pool here for women and kids, is the way they put it. And it had the bathhouses here. And everything was made out of wood, this whole thing. And it had a dirt floor, had a real nice slide. You were really into slides. And you can see all the people here. Well, here's the problem. This got so popular But they had to keep building and building and building bathhouses. And pretty soon there's a double row of them there. Because, you know, these women, they wore the huge dresses and they'd have to have places to hang them. And you know, very few people had their own bathing suits. These were all rentless, rental bathing suits. When that first day I went into the concession stand, and there was a huge box in there, and I looked in there, and it was full of all these big wool things, you know. I had never seen anything like that. And I picked them up, and, you know, they've been sitting there for a while, and they kind of smell kind of funny. And anyway, I thought, people have got to get their own bathing suits. You know, I haul those things to the dump. Boy, I wish I had them now. Okay, moving on. This is Howard Brewer. He bought it in 1907 and operated to 1926. Howard was a character. This guy was a bundle of energy and constantly made changes. He would move a building, you know. He was a champion swimmer on the West Coast and Olympia. And look at all those medals he made and all these trophies, and his trainer. And this is another swimmer from Australia. But he came up and he saw the lake and he was just enamored. He had to have that lake and he bought it. And he made change after change and change. But big changes were in the swimming area. But his wife was really into music, and so was he, because he was a piano tuner. Even a young man like that. Now here we have a exhibition going on. This guy is in midair. That could very well be him. He might be exhibiting. And look at all the people here. We've got people sitting up on the trapeze. This is the trapeze right here. See this? The trapeze hung down there. You walked up a ladder there. You walked out on the board, and there was a rope hanging down with a piece of wood on it, and you threw that out, and it wrapped around there, and you pulled it in, and then you started swinging. And boy, the kids had a lot of fun on that. There used to be a guy here in town named Jimmy Lincoln, and boy, could he was really good on that trapeze. Okay, this is taken very early, and because here's the island here. The dance pavilion was over on this side, and this island you can see has even very little vegetation, a little wiki up or something there. But here's all this, and the tower, and everything is made out of wood at this time. And then the rows of bathhouses. Okay, here's a really good shot. A really a great postcard. Quite a few of these postcards were sent to Germany. The film was sent to Germany, and they would print them out and make postcards out of them. And this is probably one of them right here, because it doesn't have the writing on it that Harold Biggs used to write on. This is all wood, you can imagine. Later on it'll change a little bit, okay? This postcard here, my brother found this. He lived in San Jose, and his wife was dragging him around to antique store, you know, looking for something, and he would stand out by the counter and look at postcards. Well, he looked down, and here's one from Olympia Park. And so he bought it and gave it to me years ago. You can see the island is another year or so older and is starting to get some big trees on it. On the back of that postcard, it says, I am the one in the middle rowing. And I thought, well, that's a bunch of junk, you know. And so anyway, we found out that Harold Biggs was walking around everywhere taking pictures of tourists. And he would sell that postcard to the tourists. That's how he made a living and put himself through college. This is another one about the same time, 1910 here. But you see, people love to row boats. I mean, think about it, in Grass Valley, where else are you gonna row a boat? All those other islands, or those lakes, you know, clear up in the boonies, they weren't accessible. There were no cars, you know. And okay, here we have here the bathhouses now are stretched out a little bit further, and the brewers have built a little building here, a little concession stand. This is a bench where the people are, you know, watchers. This is the trapeze, and it is made out of wood. Or,
What's in the foreground?
well, this is a raft here, or we call them toadstools. There was 3 of them in the lake, and the kids would swim from one to the next. Okay, this is a map we had to make out so that you would kind of see where everything was, you know, the dam here, and there was a little spillway right here where the water went out, and the Indian Rock, mortar rock. I have always called them grinding rocks, but but anyway, there was a little, when they raised the lake, this little creek that came in here, and we ended up with a little lane here. They called it Lover's Lane because guys would row the boat in there and kiss their girlfriends. Oh, that was dirty out there. Okay, this is one of the posters or an ad in the newspaper that the brewers put in. They had huge parties out there, July 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and just had all kinds of things going on. You know, in those days, you know, kind of feature this. You don't just get in your car and go somewhere for an hour. You got to either walk there or take the train or take the attraction company, and so you spend all day. So this guy, Howard Brewer, he tried to have something for everyone. He put in a merry-go-round, he put in a playground for the kids, and then you had a dancing. He moved the dance floor from the shoreline out and beefed it up really good on the island. But he just had to do everything. You know, he would consider each age group and say, what do they like to do, you know? You know, we have never found out what the monkey dance is. Jack Laird, do you know what a monkey dance is?
No idea.
Oh, I figured if anybody knew, he'd know. Anyway, there was all kinds of dancing. You know, you had ragtime, you had jazz, the Lindy Hop, all that. But Lake Olympia kept up with it. Well, here's a really good picture of the border rock. At this time, the brewers had built a little concession stand here. Eventually, it would have big hip roofs covering a great big porch, and they needed that porch because so many people came to the dances that it couldn't hold them all, and so people would dance over on this side. Here we've got the railing all decorated up, and there's 200-foot bridge here coming into that part. Eventually, he will, you know, Brewer just kept moving everything. And in the book, you'll go through there and think, oh, this is the same photo. Well, it isn't the same photo. You look at the buildings have moved. See all the people here? We don't know what's going on, but very possibly a dance or a show of some sort. Now they're putting a canvas roof over the floor because, you know, the weather was really hard on that floor. You had all the winter snows and rain and cold and freezing, and the floor would get all splintered. So they put that canvas across. Okay, this one, here's the ladies, that you saw that before, sitting on the rock, and here is the rock again, and now people are sitting on the toadstool. And this is taken at night. You know, it'd be really hot uptown, and they'd have a moonlight night, and people would come out to the lake, and they want to swim and boat and dance or whatever, you know, and just have a good time. Right now, there's no bar right here. You'll see changes all the time. Now they got the hip roof on it, covering this dance floor. This is looking south. This would be the dam right here. This is where this hill came down here, and this hill came down here, and it was just an excellent place to put a dam in right here. At first, it was made out of dirt, and it got washed out because when it rained, all the water drained from Banner Mountain, Ridge Road, Spring Hill, Town Talk, and it all came down through here. And if you didn't drain this lake, that water would come in so quick it would take the dam off. And several owners found that out. One of the many posters that went up around town. But you see, there's all kinds of things going on. You can't read it here, but you want to keep everybody busy, and most people stayed and what they call it hanging the last dog. You know, they had tug of wars, Cornish wrestling. That's something that I bet you nobody here has ever seen. It was a type of wrestling. And there were predominantly Cornish people here. People came over from Cornwall, England. They had been mining for years over there. They were the only people that knew what to do and knew how to mine hard rock. This is a very serene sort of, it might be at night too, but it's kind of dark, but here's the main concession building here. And this would be the first bridge. And then they have some sort of a little building here. It might have been for the band or maybe storage, but not sure what it was. Because this kept changing and changing and changing. As long as Brewer was there, something was going to change. Okay, this is probably the Glenbrook Park boys. That's a group from San Francisco, and the organizations down there would make it a point to get the kids out of town, and because you know it's kind of a rough sort of place, and they would come up to Lake Olympia. Now, the first time they came up on the train. You can catch Southern Pacific right there in Oakland. And they'd come up and get off at Auburn or Colfax. Well, they got off at Auburn and they hiked to Lake Olympia. Oh. So that was probably about a 25-mile hike. And, well, they were getting really a workout. to get here. But anyway, they were a nice bunch of boys. They were on their best, courteous and all, and some of them were band. They played a lot of horns, and they would have bands, and they would give little concerts. They would help people do things around their house, put on acrobatic shows, and they came up for years and years, and they would come up, finally, they would come on the narrow gauge railroad, once that was in. Okay, this would be looking south, and the building now is all sealed in. Now, the idea of that is, when the Brewers had it, it was strictly summertime. At this time of the year, that would be all closed and locked up, and they wanted to go full time. Keep it open and busy. That's what happened to the racetrack. Why it failed, and they eventually, around in the 20s, they plowed it up and seeded it and put the cows back in there. Okay, this bar here was built right after Prohibition. Things were changing. Only it was right here. And now a guy named Thurston is the one that built it. He bought Lake Olympia from the Brewers. And he operated for 20 years. But it didn't work out having the bar up here. And so he moved it down. Can you imagine moving that whole building? That must have been a riot watching that. And attached it to the main building. That way, one or two could actually watch the whole thing, and it would take less employees. This is the boat dock. Oops, there we are. The boat dock right down in here. And there goes your bridge, headed on out to, here's a toadstool. And okay, I got to tell you about this. Thurston sold it, and after 20 years of work, I think he sold it to a cousin. But anyway, this building right here was for slot machines. And it took up part of the porch. It had a door from the bar going in, and then it had another door, an exit on this side going onto the porch. These walls were real thick, 2x6 and 2x8s, and it was filled with sawdust. And that was to knock down the noise so the sheriff couldn't hear where the slot machines were. And of course, people smoked at that time. I mean, and there was and this was such a little room, and this is a fan right here. And I could just see all the smoke blowing out of that. There's a great big speaker. There's two of them right there, and these boats rented by the hour. And so you would, each one had a number, and you'd call in, okay, number 2, your time's up, and they'd come in, and somebody else would be waiting. Well, there's the other speaker over there. Somebody else would be waiting, because people love to row boats, Okay, this is the all sealed in roller rig dance floor. It had a facade on it right here. Well, when the snow got 4 or 5 feet deep on this roof, that facade kept it there. And then it would rain on it and get really heavy, and that is what caused this end to collapse. And so when we bought it, that was collapsed. There was an addition on the side here that was built to put, you put skates on, and then there was bathrooms, and then there was a big stage area where bands could get up and play. When we rebuilt it, we removed that facade. It was the contractor, a guy named Ed Nygaard, said, you don't want to put that on there, that's what caused all the problems, you know? So anyway, we had straight down now, and this is the shiny aluminum roof, and the snow just slipped right off of it. But now what we had, it piled up here, and the snow piled clear up to the eaves, you know? And so when we were gonna open up to run a skating session or have a dance or any event, we had to get in there and dig tunnels. Right there. And of course, throw all the snow into the lake, or where the lake would be. Actually, we had to drain this every winter. You would figure out, oh, the rains are coming, so you'd start taking the boards out of the spillway and start lowering it down. And then I had to get in behind the dam and remove a big wooden cap, and then it would drain it right down to its natural state. This is an overhead taken by a guy named Stores. And I could never contact this guy, but it shows the regular road coming in, which would be Plaza Drive now, and then it turned and came into the parking lot. And that's just about where that brand new road is to the housing development. But you can see this is the parking lot here, and here is the concession stand and all the boats right here, and the 200 foot, and then 50 by 100 dance floor with the addition on there. Toadstools here, toadstool there. I'll let you read that. Anyway, on summer nights, Japanese lanterns shone on a wooden bridge that led to the pavilion. And the Japanese lanterns were all the way around the pavilion, where moonlight dancing called me in 3/4 time to the town nearby.
That's it.
Okay. Give me a seat. Do I have any questions? Okay.
Was there any overnight accommodations?
Yes, we had a row of cabins. All those pictures are in the book. 5 cabins. And then there was a large area, which was the picnic. I'm standing in the wrong place. Maybe I wouldn't, I don't think I need it. That's okay. Yeah, there was a large area there, and you know the great big military tents that the military used, you know, after the war, there was a lot of those things around, all kinds of actually surplus. But anyway, there was a lot of those tents, and there were rows of platforms where those tents would go up in the summer. And they were so busy out there, we weren't in the 50s, but before, they were so busy that all those tents were rented, and the 5 cabins were rented, and there were rows of tables, which you'll see in the pictures. There's 211 pictures in that, because I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. Hey, that's a good. We love pictures, yes.
Why was the lake taken down?
Well, the water changed. You will notice that, let's say a month ago when it was hot, you could go out to Glenbrook Creek, and it's not there now. Yeah, where's the water? Well, all those springs, you had Spring Hill, it's called Spring Hill, because it had springs on it, and springs all across Ridge Road, and then as you go around the spring, there was a big spring where the Safeway is now, because that was dammed up, and that actually fed a whole housing area. And it also, we got good, nice, fresh spring water out of that for the lake too, for drinking and all. But it's just amazing how things change. You know, it dried up, you know.
Went to the well, not to the mine.
Pardon?
The mine.
Well, you know, it's funny. Here, all the mines are operating, and there's lots of water in the springs coming right to the surface, you know. And now that the mines are all full of water, they're just big wells, but there's nothing coming out of the springs. So figure that out. They have to be a hydraulic or something. Yes,
I have 3 questions.
yes.
You know the cabins that are along East Main,
Yes, those were the Savarcia's cabins. That little white block building, that was a grocery store for that whole area. And they owned those cabins.
Right across from Jack in the Box?
Yes.
yeah.
They're all boarded up now. They were gonna build a hotel there, but it never came about. But there is a brand new hotel going in on the Lake Olympia, Ishmael's Road property right now.
The hotel
Yeah.
there will be going in.
What was the toll on the toll road?
Oh, I have no idea. No.
And is the grinding rock still there? Can we
The
go
grinding
see it?
rock is still there, the spillway is still there, but you can't get to them because it's all totally overgrown. It's really a shame, and it'd be nice to see that. And there's supposed to be 2 other grinding rocks in there too. Yes, right.
Yeah, there's, at the billboard over there, they talk about a car race that was there, and you didn't mention anything about the car races on the racetrack. Can you-
Yeah, that's all covered in the book. There was one car race there. And it tore the track up so bad that the horses couldn't use it anymore. So they went back to horse racing, and then horse racing took it down. One of the things that happened, the state of California made it illegal to vote, or to, pardon? Bet, yeah, excuse me, thank you. To bet on horses. Can you, I mean, you don't go to a horse race just to watch a bunch of horses go around. You go, oh man, I hope I win, you know. And so that kind of put a damper on things. And one of the things is, just took a terrible beating, all that old wood, all those grandstands, stables beautiful stables for 100 horses. And they only use them once in a while. You know, it's not like they use it every day like the fairgrounds do now. It was just, when they were gonna have a race, and they have to go out and rebuild the whole thing to use it. Yes, please.
2 questions. Did you have lifeguards? And I assume there were a lot of like accidents and things.
Well, there wasn't really a lot of back then. Yeah, I was the lifeguard. I was also the bartender. And you see how that bar has all these nice windows around it? Well, I'm up in there looking out to see if anybody's drowning. Hey, you guys get in trouble, you know, give a yell. I had the window open. But we were really, you know, we didn't make any money out there. We all had other jobs. Dad and I worked at DeWitt Mental Institution. That's where I got some of my idiosyncrasy. Mom was, worked at, in the local hospital. She was a nurse. And it was more like a hobby, you know.
Tell them about the naked ladies, man.
Oh, yeah, man. You know, we had that problem even in those days. I was,
What's the problem?
yeah, really wasn't that bad. Okay, anyway, I'm bartending, you know, and there's parents in there because they bring their kids out, and they sit on the stools and watch out the window and watch the kids, you know. And there are 2 ladies there talking, and one of them said, oh, look at the naked ladies. Well, you know, I couldn't have that on my watch, you know, I'm a lifeguard too. So anyway, I pop off my apron and all, and I go running down there, and I can't find any, where'd they go, you know, are they swimming or what, you know? And then I asked the kids, you see anything funny going on down here? No, we didn't do it. You know, they thought they had done something, you know. But anyway, so I went back up there, put my apron on, I says, where'd you see those naked ladies? Well, they're right down there in the flower garden. There's a lily. All the naked ladies. I was so disappointed I couldn't even see it.
Ruined your whole day.
Ruined my day. Where
Where
are you? Oh, yes.
At the corner of Idaho, Maryland, and Brunswick, it looks like there is some kind of a racetrack there.
Well, that's Errol McBoyle's racetrack. He had beautiful picture on there, and he had racehorses too. He was the owner of Idaho, Maryland Mine, and he owned that whole area, clear up on the hill to the airport, acres and acres, where they have that brand new housing development they're building, you know. But all that was, Idaho, Maryland Mine surrounded us practically. On 3 sides it did, it surrounded us. It was called the McCary Ranch for Malcolm Hamill. Anybody know Malcolm Hamill? Yeah. He was a word that everybody said. Malcolm Hamill, he was a really busy guy. Busy guy. In fact, he ran the dances out there in Lake Olympia. He had a contract and we actually, I gotta go home? No. Do we go on? Are we through? No. Yes.
A question and an anecdote. How late did the trolley, when did the trolley stop running?
In 1924. Yeah, everybody, really, you heard for years that they took the trolley out because it snowed and it couldn't go up the tracks and it was really having a bad time, so the guy said, oh, forget about it. They were thinking about doing away with that for years. They had everything lined up, buses and all, because you see the trolley is on a track. It goes here, boom, boom, boom. It couldn't take the men to the mines, whereas with a bus, you can go anywhere you want. You got a guy that's working at the Empire, you go by there, you know, the Brunswick mine. Anyway, it was 1924.
So part of why I asked is I live up in the north end of the basin at the dead end of West Olympia Drive. And Sharon and Joe Bovin also live back there. Sharon,
yes, I know Joe.
And Sharon grew up in the house across the street from where Joe lived.
Yes.
And the trolley went through their property originally.
Correct.
But interestingly, Google Maps showed the road to still go through there for like 25 years ago and a little later when the internet started. People would come down the road thinking that they could drive through there, through private property, because that somehow the trolley road was still on there.
Well, it's the trolley right away. Yeah, it's still on. I drove in there and when we were researching this thing, and I saw this area that was really overgrown. And I asked the neighbors around there, I said, what piece of property is that? And he says, nobody claims that. And I went into the city, and they have a really nice map on the wall there. And you can see all the property lines, and here's this thing going up to Town Talk. And I asked him, well, whose property is that? He says, that's no man's land. Can you imagine? It's still there.
And then my second question, is there anybody here from the Price family or knew the Price family? This is more of an anecdote, but over many years I had a few occasions to speak with Arnie Price, who's now long gone. He probably would be well into his 90s or close to 100. He said he was one of the last muckers in the mine. He started as a teenager, and he lived up off of Slate Creek, he and his wife June. But when I would get to visit with him, he and June met on the dance floor. And so their story of their family beginnings were that June's younger brother was a skate key boy, and he introduced June and Arnie skating at the dance floor. And then they had stories for, of course, many years while it was still functioning, where they brought their whole family.
Yeah, that was a social gathering. You know, the Ishmael's Grove, and you'll see in the book, you can see these great big trees. There was a time when the Grass Valley area was denuded because all the steam engines were running all in all the mines and in the forest, and they had to have fuel. And people cooked with wood, they built with wood, they heated with wood, and there was no wood. You can see some old photos, and it's all gone. But Ishmael's Grove was not, because Ishmael's wouldn't let anybody cut on that. So the big trees there, and everybody came out to get in the shade. It was a draw.
What was
Yes.
the terminus of the trolley on the south end of the county? How far south?
It came in East Main Street, turned onto Mill Street, and came down to the North Star Mine. That was the terminus. It was slated to go all the way to Marysville, but that never took place. You know, trucks and trailers came in, and it kind of took it away from there. Yes.
So I worked for 24 years in the old B of A building on Broad and Pine in Nevada City. Later became the Button Works,
Yeah.
and then the building was restored back to the bank. On the corner of that building, there's a brass plaque commemorating the trolley. So if anybody is in Nevada City, take a look. It's on the corner of
Well,
Broad.
that was the terminus.
That was the terminus on the
Yeah,
north
they came
end.
up the street and went over to the curb,
Right, and that's the
and that's where
terminus.
it ended. Yeah.
Well, we would love to hear any anecdotes you have about Lake Olympia, but we'll have to cut it short now. So thank you so much.
Oh, you always cut it short when I'm talking.